The third chapter, verses 1 through 9, because 10 begins another section, another topic, related but different topics. So 1 through 9.
व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् ॐ अथ तृतीयोऽध्यायः अर्जुन उवाच जायसि चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि यामि श्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम्। श्रीभगवानुवाच लोकेऽस्मिन् द्विविधा निष्ठा पुरा प्रोक्ता मया नघ ज्ञानयोगेन साङ्ख्यानां कर्मयोगेन योगिनाम् न कर्मणामनारम्भान् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न हि कश्चित् क्षणमपि जातु तिष्ठत्य कर्मकृत् कार्यते ह्यवशः कर्म सर्वः प्रकृतिजैर्गुणैः कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य यास्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते यस्त्विन्द्रियाणि मनसा नियम्यारभतेऽर्जुन कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्म ज्यायो ह्यकर्मणः शरीरयात्रापि च ते न प्रसिद्ध्येद कर्मणः यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचर।
It's okay. I got it. All right, now we're ready. Sorry. Okay. So, last time we began chapter 3 after summarizing chapter 2. We began chapter 3, we did the first 2 verses, and we'll continue from the 3rd verse. But let me just mention the first 2 verses because that sets the stage for verses 3 on after. So, in the self and the last many verses, steadiness in wisdom, that is, the mind established in higher wisdom, established where they're not disturbed. Sri Krishna came to that section of the Stita Prajna, the qualities of the person of steady wisdom. He kept telling Arjuna that tasmad yudhyasva bharata, therefore stand up and fight. So on the one hand, he's telling him to engage in action, and on the other hand, he's talking about the person of steady wisdom who is unaffected by anything. And so Arjuna begins chapter 3 with a statement saying, Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janaradana tat kim karmani ghore mam dhiyo jayasi keshava. So, O Janaradana, you who are worshipped by all, that is Krishna, you who are prayed to by all, and therefore I am praying to you with this problem. If you say that knowledge is superior to work, then why are you engaging me in this most horrible of actions? Why are you engaging me in this? And then in the 2nd verse he says, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nistitya yena shreyo hamapnuyam. So here he says, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me. It's as if you are confusing me by your contradictory statements. The word eva, of course, means as if. Now, Madhusudana in his commentary says that eva, that as if, means that Arjuna knows that Sri Krishna is not confusing him, but he is confused, and so he wants Sri Krishna to explain things to him. Now that's a tendency among the acharyas, and one that I myself don't agree with, where the acharyas have the tendency, all of the acharyas, to try to make everything perfect, where Arjuna knows that Krishna is perfect and he knows that Krishna couldn't possibly be confusing him, and so it's as if you're confusing me. I know that you're not, but please straighten this out. Oh no, that's ridiculous. Arjuna is confused, and he thinks that Sri Krishna has made confusing statements. So he's asking Sri Krishna to please straighten this out. Don't confuse me. Don't confuse me. Tarekam vada nistitya. Tell me that one thing for sure. Yena shreyoham apnuyam, by which I will know that which is best. So tell me that one thing. Don't confuse me like this. It's like, to take a big tangent for a moment, it's like in the Chandogya Upanishad, where the boy Satyakama goes to the teacher to learn the knowledge of Brahman. And the teacher asks him what his lineage is. And so Satyakama goes back and asks his mother, what is my lineage? And the mother says, my child, I was working in many people's houses, and so I don't know what your lineage is. Meaning that the boy was illegitimate. But Shankaracharya says that, makes a whole story which is not founded in the text. He says that, what the mother means is that the boy was the father of the boy died before the mother had a chance to ask him what his lineage was, and then she was working in houses, and so she couldn't go to her relatives and ask her. Well, that's clearly not the meaning. That's why Swamiji said even the greatest of the acharyas, they distorted the meaning. They twisted texts in order, because Shankaracharya, and again, Shankaracharya was a great saint and a great philosopher, but he was also an extreme supporter of the structures of society and the caste system, and so he could not admit that an illegitimate child could be a man of knowledge. That was just impossible. Only a Brahmin was fit for the knowledge of Brahman, and so Satyakama therefore had to be a Brahmin, and he had to be a legitimate Brahmin, otherwise everything that followed was impossible. But that's not what the text says. And so here also, though Arjuna does say the word Eva, it's as if you were confusing me. And so, yes, he is recognizing that Sri Krishna may not be confusing him, but still he is concerned because he has been confused, and he wants Sri Krishna to tell him that which is true. So then we come to where we left off. We start with verse 3 with the Lord's answer, and it says, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. So the Blessed Lord said, Asmin Loke, in this world, here where we are, again, there are different worlds as well. Where are those different worlds? They're right here. It's just that we don't see them because our mind is in a certain state where we see this world. It's just like when you go to sleep and you dream. Where do you go when you dream? Where is the dream world? Do you go to another planet? Do you go to the moon? Do you go to the other side of the sun? No, it's right here. This world disappears and the dream world appears. And so other worlds are right here. This world disappears at death and the other world appears. And if you have the opportunity to be with a person who is passing away over some days, they're beginning to make their transition days before they actually pass away, then they begin to see the other world. They pass in and out, coming and going. As I mentioned before, when I was with my mother some months ago, she would ask me, well, what is this river that we're crossing over? And who are all of these people that are going uphill? They're all dressed in their best clothes. Where are they going? Where is everyone going that's walking uphill? And she asked me many questions about what she was seeing, trying to understand what she was seeing. And so she was right here. She was where she had been, but she was beginning to see the other world, and people on their way to the other world. People who were passing away also and were on their way to the other world. So all worlds are right here. But Arjuna's question, therefore, is in this world that we see. I mean, Sri Krishna is saying that in this world, asmin loke, nishtha dvividha maya pura prokta. In this very world, there are two convictions. I'll come back to that in a moment. Two convictions which have been declared by me earlier. Anaga. He addresses Sri Arjuna as Anaga. Anaga means without any agha, without any stain, without any impurity. So, O stainless one. So, O stainless one, he addresses him as O stainless one because he's telling him that you are fit for this knowledge that I'm about to give you. You may be confused, but your basic heart has become purified. And so I'm going to give you higher wisdom. So in this world, two convictions were taught by me before. Before where? Before in the second chapter. He taught two different things in the second chapter. Both of them are true. That nishtha, conviction, or as they put the steadfastness is which is a good translation. The translation here, steadfastness. Steadfastness which is based in conviction. It's in the singular. And so Madhusudana explains, I think rightly, that it's singular because steadfastness is one, but it takes two forms. So it's not that there are two different convictions or two different steadfastnesses, but there is one steadfastness founded in conviction which takes two different forms, dvividha, of two natures. Jnana yogena sankhyanam, the path of capable of leading one to illumination. So Swamiji taught karma yoga as an integral path itself, as a path that could lead us to illumination through the practice of karma yoga. Shankara spent much of his teaching emphasizing that work and knowledge cannot exist at the same time. Now what Shankaracharya said was true. It's just the conclusion drawn from that is what Swami Vivekananda disagreed with. That is, in the state of the highest knowledge where there's no sense of doer, where there's no sense of karta or bhokta, how can there be action? There can't be action. Action depends on a sense of being the agent of action. I am the karta, I'm the agent of action, I'm going to do this. I wake up in the morning and think, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, but first I've got to go get a cup of coffee to wake up, and, and so on. So I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do the other thing. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do the other thing. I have the sense of being the agent of action and the enjoyer of the fruits of action, which means not enjoyer in the sense of having a good time, it means also the enjoyer of the sufferings that come to me from karma as well. So good and bad things, I'm the enjoyer of good and bad fruits of good and bad karma. So without that, you can't do any action. And so Shankaracharya, one of the main teachings of Shankaracharya, and it was an important teaching in his time, extremely important, historically important in his time, was to establish the fact that knowledge is superior to action, and that in knowledge there is no action. And that is true, fundamentally true. It was important in his time because the view of the Mimamsakas was very strong. Mimamsakas means the Purva Mimamsakas, those who followed the early part of the Vedas, and believed that the import of the Vedas was to enjoin actions upon people. The purpose of the Vedas is to get you to do the right actions, to make you do the proper actions. And through that you go to heaven and everything else happens. And society is sustained and everything. So it was very much a this-worldly religion. Much like, it had many similarities to the non-mystical practice of Judaism. Judaism also, many rabbis will say that Judaism is a very this-worldly religion. The other world will take care of itself. We have to take care of this world. And so the Mimamsakas were like that. They were not, of course, Judaism has its mystical side also, but the non-mystical, which is the larger part of the Jewish community, believe that you should take care of this world. You don't have to think about the other world. That will take care of itself. Confucianism, the same thing. Confucian said that this world is what we know, let's take care of that. The other world will take care of itself. So, Shankaracharya had to show that the highest purpose of the Vedas is not to enjoin actions, that you should do the vidhi and nisheda. You should do this and you should not do that. That was for people of manda buddhi, those of low understanding, who could not understand spirituality. And so for them, yes, engage them in action because that's all that they can understand. Engage them in good action rather than bad action because that will help them and help society, but it won't give knowledge. And so he established this principle that jnana, karma jnana samuchaya is impossible. The harmony between, or the coexistence of action and knowledge is impossible. The problem is that that became codified as one has to give up action before one can attain to knowledge. But what did Shankaracharya do? Shankaracharya, who was more active than Shankaracharya? He traveled from the Himalayas down to the tip of South India, from the east to the west, from Dwarka to Puri, and all over the country, re-establishing temples, converting the Buddhists back to Hinduism, even in the borderlands of Central Asia. He made whole communities into Brahmins. He just sprinkled water over them, recited a mantra, and said, now you are all a Brahmin community now. Because in the Buddhist age, the caste had dissolved, except where Hinduism was still strong. But among the Buddhists, it had dissolved. And so he reestablished temples, he changed temples which had become Buddhist back into Hindu temples, established worship, established monasticism, established the... In 33 years, who did more work than Shankaracharya? And so we have to understand the teachings of a person in the context of their life. And so Shankaracharya, it was extremely important to emphasize at that time that the purpose of the Vedas is the attainment of the highest knowledge. Tattvamasi, thou art that. And the resulting experience, that's the Upadesha mantra. And then the Anubhava mantra of Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So the teaching mantra, thou art that, and the experiential mantra of I am Brahman. That is the ultimate import of the whole of the Vedic corpus. That's what everything in the Vedas is leading up to. No matter what, where it takes a person where they are, but it's leading towards that. And so again, but because of the understanding that came, that if knowledge and action cannot dwell together, then when one takes sannyasa, one has to give up action. Okay, give up action if it means giving up the vidhis and nishedhas of the scriptures, the injunctions and prohibitions of the scriptures, okay. That a sannyasi is supposed to give up. That's why a sannyasi is not supposed to say anymore for himself, even the Gayatri Mantra, because that's a Vedic, earlier Vedic verse. The Gayatri Mantra, the most sacred prayer of Hinduism. They can teach it to others and say it for others, but shouldn't use it as a spiritual practice, because the purpose of the Gayatri Mantra, ideally, not in actuality for the vast majority, but ideally it's supposed to have already been fulfilled by the time one takes sannyasa. And so, like in Durga Puja, in India, in our order, it's only brahmacharyans or householders who are allowed to do Durga Puja. Swami will never do Durga Puja. They may be Tantra Dharak, but they won't do the Durga Puja. Why? Because the Durga Puja contains Vedic passages that a sannyasi is not supposed to recite. And so, if one to attain knowledge goes beyond the Vedic injunctions, that's okay. But it doesn't mean that one has to give up all action, because as Swami Vivekananda showed, that action itself can lead to knowledge. And so karma yoga also is a path. And so the acharyas, at least the Advaitika acharyas, they all interpreted the Gita as teaching two paths, one a lower path and another a higher path. Karma yoga is for those like Arjuna who don't have purity of mind and can't understand anything else, and so engage them in karma yoga. And eventually they'll get purity of mind, and then they can come to jnana yoga. But jnana yoga is the real thing. That's the real thing, that's the real teaching, that's where everybody should get. When you come there, you have to give up karma yoga. That you can't do anymore, because you can't have karma and jnana together. But yes, not being able to have action in the state of knowledge, that's different from not being able to act while you're practicing jnana yoga. Those are two different things. And so that confusion caused a lot of confusion in the Advaita tradition. So Swami Vivekananda, once again, for the first time after the time of Sri Krishna, really, in a strong and clear way, Swamiji came and re-established karma yoga as a path, as a legitimate path. Now, even Swamiji says in one place, there's only one place I've seen it in the complete works, he tells in one of his conversations, he says that what Shankaracharya says is true, that karma yoga cannot by itself give knowledge, that knowledge has to be something that comes over and on top of karma yoga. But karma yoga can so purify the mind and make one so unselfish that just by hearing the Tattvamasi, thou art that, then the knowledge flashes. And so it practically leads one to liberation. If it leads to the very border, where all you need is a simple instruction and then you attain to the highest knowledge, then you could, for practical purposes, say that karma yoga also leads to the highest knowledge. Even Raja Yoga in that sense doesn't lead to the highest yoga. How do we know, to the highest realization? How do we know that? Because the yogis, Patanjali and the yogi tradition, they didn't accept the Advaitic conclusion of the oneness of everything, that I am one with the reality. They stopped at the experience of the Purusha, the individual Purusha. I am the Purusha separate from Prakriti, but you're a Purusha, you're a Purusha, you're a Purusha, you're another Purusha. You're all separate from me. And I'm a Purusha. I separate, but you go on, other Purushas go on until they attain separation. So that shows that Raja Yoga, which deals with the perfection of mind, that there also knowledge is necessary. So Shankaracharya was right, that without the knowledge given by the Vedas, without this knowledge that you are the infinite, that there are no two, neha nanasti kinchana, there is no differentiation here whatsoever. Ekameva advitiyam, one alone without a second. Without that knowledge, then one attains to a very high state, but not the highest state. And so, Karma Yoga and Raja Yoga both lead up to the point where the highest knowledge is easy of attainment, but still that knowledge has to be given. What about the saints in other traditions where they didn't have the Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi and all of that? They didn't have the Vedic statements, the Upanishadic statements. Like among the Sufis who attain to a non-dualistic experience, the Christian mystics who attain to a non-dualistic experience. There, as Sri Ramakrishna said, when there is not a human guru to give that, then the divine itself gives that knowledge. The Divine Mother herself gives the Advaitic knowledge to one who is ready for it. And so even without the Vedas, that knowledge comes through God, who is the author of the Vedas, the source of the Vedas, the repository of the Vedas. So all of this is a long tangent, but it's to say that one of the things you'll find in Madhusudana, in Shankaracharya, even in Sridhara, and all of the commentaries from the Advaitic tradition, and even in the devotional traditions, is that Karma Yoga is meant for those who of impure mind, and then for an Advaitin, then you go to Jnana Yoga. For a Bhakta, then you go to Bhakti Yoga. But for both of them, Karma Yoga is only preliminary to provide a little purification of mind. They're not speaking in the terms that Swami Vivekananda said, as I just referred to him, where Karma Yoga can take you up to the very rim of the ocean of Satchidananda, and then it's just a small step from there. No, they're not talking about that. They're talking about a significant mental purification. Then you give up all karma, then you take up jnana or bhakti, and you follow that for however many years or lifetimes you need to, and then you attain to knowledge. No, but Swamiji made Karma Yoga in the modern age, once again, a path in itself, a dignified path, and a path which can lead us. He said, when he came back to India, he said that I have taught a new path, Karma Yoga, so that the young men and women of the West and of this country can attain to the highest through engaging themselves in action. And again, if you read the Gita from that standpoint, you understand it quite differently from the way the commentators have delineated it as two paths, one way down here and one way up here. That's not the idea you get from Krishna himself. So the translation here of verse 3, O unblemished one, anagha. Among these people, that is low case mean in this world and its people, two kinds of steadfastness, that is one steadfastness of two types, were spoken of previously by me, that is in the previous chapter. And the yoga of knowledge for the men of realization and the yoga of action for the yogis. And so then he continues in verse 4, Na karmana manarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. These next three verses or so, 4 verses, are very famous and extremely important because he says, Na karmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnute. So purusha, a person, karmanam anarambhat, by not engaging in work, purusho naishkarmyam na ashnute. A person does not attain to actionlessness by not engaging in action. So that again is directly contrary to what came to be the Advaitic position, that you have to give up all action in order to practice Jnana Yoga. My own guru, Swami Vireshwaranji, when he was a young monk, he spent some time in Rishikesh, which at that time, in the 1920s, I think it was, when he went there. Rishikesh was a real tapovan. It was a place where only yogis and sadhus lived and practiced intense tapasya. Now it's a big, busy town. Big, busy, noisy, dirty. Still a nice place, but it's nothing like it was at that time. At that time, it was just sadhus in their kutiras on the bank of the Ganges. So he said that there was a sadhu in a kutir near his kutir who would spend the whole day polishing his kamandalu, his brass kamandalu. Why? Not because it needed it, but because the sadhu wasn't capable of sitting in meditation all day. Very, very few are, even among sadhus. And so he had to do something, but he's not supposed to work. So he spends the day polishing his kamandalu every day. So he has something to do. So, as Swamiji said, how much better if that energy is put in for the good of humanity by worshiping the divine in people. It will lead us upward spiritually, and it will also benefit society. So, nakarmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnute. A person does not attain to the state of actionlessness, naishkarmyam, the state of actionlessness, by not engaging in action. So the way to attain to the way to transcend action, which is what we want to do, is not through actionlessness. Nacha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. Nacha sanyasanadeva, nor by only the taking of sannyasa does one attain to perfection. So one doesn't attain to perfection just by becoming a sannyasi, nor does one attain to the state of actionlessness, that is, transcendence of the sense of karta, bhokta, and all action by not doing action. That's not the way to attain to it. When you hear the sannyasi compared to the householder, that the sannyasi is far greater than the householder, that has to be understood as the comparison of two ideals. That yes, the ideal of the sannyasi is the highest ideal that can be there. That doesn't mean that a particular sannyasi is greater than a particular householder, not at all. That shouldn't be the conclusion which is drawn, but that's usually the conclusion that is drawn. It means that the ideal is the highest ideal. Both householders and sannyasis can attain to the state of knowledge, and that has always been the Hindu position, except again in the Advaita position, which in the Advaita tradition, which said that only through sannyasa can one attain to knowledge. That's why Ramana Maharshi was approached by sannyasis from the Shankara Mutt, who said, "Revered sir, you please take sannyasa. You should take sannyasa because the Upanishads say that without sannyasa, without external sannyasa, the signs of external sannyasa, one cannot attain to the highest knowledge. And so for the protection of the tradition, you should take sannyasa." And Ramana Maharshi refused. He refused to take it. He said, "I have no need for sannyasa." He was already established in the highest knowledge. Holy Mother herself never took sannyasa. Sri Ramakrishna did. Swamiji did, of course. Sri Ramakrishna did without showing the outward signs, but he did take sannyasa. But Holy Mother never took sannyasa. And Ramana Maharshi never took sannyasa. Both of them were established in the highest knowledge. And in the case of Holy Mother, certainly it was to show that one doesn't need sannyasa to attain to the highest knowledge. So, one ideal may be the highest why, because the ideal of the sannyasi is one who has given up everything and transcended everything. And that certainly is the ideal. One who needs nothing, one who is desireless, one who is completely free. But for those who take sannyasa, there are two types of sannyasa. There's vidvat sannyasa and vividisha sannyasa. So vidvat sannyasa means one has attained to the highest knowledge and takes sannyasa because they've already transcended the world. So what do they have to do with the world anymore? So they take sannyasa and wander out into the state of illumination. But vividisha sannyasa is what 99.99999% of the sannyasis who take sannyasa take. That is, the desire to attain to knowledge. Vividisha means the desire to know. And so they take sannyasa because they want to attain to the state of knowledge. And that's good. That's very good. But that doesn't make a person a realized soul. That, as Sri Krishna says, nacha sannyasana siddhim samadhigacchati. Just by the taking of sannyasa, one doesn't become perfected. And so that's important to know. That's why Holy Mother told many people who came to her that you stay in the white cloth. That's better to avoid the egotism which comes with the Gerawa cloth. There were others that came to her and she gave them the Gerawa cloth. But for many she told them, no, it's better to stay in the white cloth like me, she would say. You stay in the white cloth like me. And so, again, that should be understood. So one doesn't attain to actionlessness by not acting, because actionlessness means what? The sense of karta, bhokta, the sense of being an agent who does things, that's completely gone. Whether in a devotional way, that God does everything, I do nothing. I do nothing, God does everything. That sense of complete surrender to God, like Girish Ghosh had attained to towards the end of his life, where he said that even breathing, I feel now that how can I breathe on my own will? I've given my Bokulma, my power of attorney, to Sri Ramakrishna. How can I take responsibility for breathing? I can't do that. That's why the Ashtavakra Samhita says, from the standpoint of knowledge, that the person of the highest knowledge is a master idler. Is a master idler. Because even the action of blinking his eyes is too much for him to bear. Even the idea that I must blink my eyes, even that he won't do. That is, he's given up all sense of agentship, even the sense that I'm going to blink my eyes. No, all action has been given up. The eyes blink, but that has nothing to do with me. This body eats, but that has nothing to do with me. Breathing goes on, but that has nothing to do with me. Thoughts arise in the mind, people ask questions, answers come, but that has nothing to do with me. For such a person, I'm not talking about myself, but for such a person of the highest illumination, no action has anything to do with them. And for the bhakta, God does everything, I do nothing. They lead to the same result, the freedom from the sense of being a karta. And if you're not a karta, then you have no karma. Karma depends on the sense of being a karta. If you do nothing, you have no results of karma. You make no karma. The bondage of karma has been completely destroyed. Bondage of karma has been completely destroyed. So what about us who are struggling to advance a little bit in spiritual life, to make a little progress? Well, the more we can think in terms of surrender to God, complete surrender, that's the ultimate state. If we have attained to that, there's nothing left to do. We are already realized saints. We're among the great saints of the world. But along the way, when we get a little bit of sense that let me surrender to God, then the hold of karma begins to become less. That's why Holy Mother said that say that your karma was to lose an arm, that you had such karma that you were going to lose an arm. For a devotee, maybe they get a little cut on the arm. That's all that they get. They still have to get the karma, but the intensity of karma has been greatly lessened. And so, even to begin with this idea that I'm not the karta, if we take it up sincerely, that, oh Lord, you please take control. You know, I don't know. Let me try to, for the best that I can, let me try to follow your will. Let me not try to seek my own will, let me try to follow your will. That we take as a practice. Realization may seem far away, but we take it as a practice. And even taking it as a practice, it helps us. So then verse 5, he says, continuing the same thought, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit karyate yavasha karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit. Kaschit kshanamapi. It's going to come again in Sanskrit because of the different arrangement of words. It's going to be no one. Kaschit means anyone, but the end result of the sentence is no one, kshanamapi, even for a moment. Jatu tishtatya karmakrit. Can ever remain without work, akarmakrit, without doing something. No one can ever remain, even for a moment, without action. It's impossible. You can't do that. You say, well, I'm just going to sit on the sofa and I'm not going to do anything today. I'm feeling lazy, I've worked hard, I don't want to do anything, I'm just going to sit here. That itself is work. The mind goes on thinking. You start to daydreaming. You start thinking about things that you might do tomorrow, and then you say, no, let me not think about that. I just want to sit here and just enjoy doing nothing. That itself is a decision. That itself is work. You're still taking responsible for sitting there. And you think, well, maybe my wife wanted me to cut the grass. Maybe I should go out. No, I'm not going to do that. That also is action. You're doing so many things just sitting there on the sofa. And then you finally get bored. You pick up the remote and turn on the television to watch something. So all of that is action. So you can't stay even for a moment without action. There are times when you're completely without action, even now. That's in deep sleep. Even in dreams, you're active because the mind is producing all of these dreams. That too is action. But in deep sleep, the karta and bhokta, the agentship, sense of being an agent, the sense of being the enjoyer of fruits of action, that disappears completely. And so then you're completely actionless. But otherwise, you're always engaged in action. So why does Sri Krishna say this? It's because you can't get out of action. So learn to do it as karma yoga. Again, he's not saying that right now, because you're such a low-minded person who really can't practice anything higher, therefore you can't sit without action for a moment. No, even the high spiritual aspirant can't sit for a moment without action. Even if they're meditating, even if they're focusing their mind, they're engaged in action. And so everyone is constantly engaged in action until you transcend inexperience, in direct experience, transcend the sense of being a karta. Until then, you're active every moment. And so, karyate hyavasha karma sarva prakriti-jayar gunayehi. Prakriti-jay gunayehi, by the gunas born of prakriti, by the gunas sattva, rajas, tamas, the qualities of nature which are born of prakriti, sarva, everyone, hyavasha, indeed by force, karma karyate. Action is done, all action is done by force, by the gunas born of prakriti. As here it's in the passive voice, action is done. So the idea is action is done by the gunas of prakriti, the gunas born of prakriti. Prakriti jaihi, gunaihi. So whether you want to work or not, the gunas are forcing you to work. Until you are gunatita, until you've gone beyond the gunas force you into activity, either inspired by rajas or by tamas or by sattva. But the gunas force you to work. And so no one can sit quietly for a moment without doing work. So again, the intent of this verse is to therefore learn how to work. Don't try to avoid work because you can't do it. You can't do it. Even the sadhu, the traditional sadhu who has given up all work, what do? They wander around the country, going from place of pilgrimage to place of pilgrimage. They go out and beg their food, or they keep provisions and make their food. They go to see other sadhus and talk with other sadhus. They're all doing work. They're all engaging in action until they have immersed in the highest knowledge. And then those who have attained to the highest knowledge, some of them may merge in the highest knowledge and the body passes away and they remain in a state of illumination and the body is dropped. Others come back and then they have no sense of doership, but their body and mind is engaged in action for the welfare of others. Shankaracharya is a man of illumination all the work that he did after attaining to illumination, that was done without the sense of being a karta, without being an agent of action. And yet how much work he did, traveling all over India, revitalizing Hinduism. It's principally because of him. There were others who came later, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Sri Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, and many others, who were part of that process. But it was the revitalization of Hinduism began with Shankaracharya. He was the one who stopped the flood of Buddhism through the country, which had already ruled the country as the dominant thought force for 1,500 years. By the time of Shankaracharya, by more than 1,000 years, 1,200 years, had ruled the country. And it was Shankaracharya who stopped it and began to push back and began the revitalization of Hinduism, so that Hinduism again grew within India and grew to the various borders of India once again. So in the next verse, verse 6, he says, the next two verses are together, but I'll take them one at a time. Karmendriyani sanyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vibudhatma mithyachara sauchyate. Karmendriyani sanyamya, the one who Karmendriyani sanyamya has controlled the outer organs, the karmendriyas, the organs of action, the one who has controlled the organs of action. Aste manasasmaran indriyarthan, who remains seated but with the mind thinking of the objects of the senses. So a person who has controlled the organs of action, okay, he's not grabbing things, he's not walking around, he's not talking, not grabbing things and moving things and doing stuff, he's just sitting there quietly like this. But his mind is thinking about the objects of the senses, thinking of objects of desire. He's seated, not moving, not doing anything, but his mind is on the objects of the senses. Like Sri Ramakrishna's analogy of the monkey. The monkey is sitting quietly in the garden as if he's in meditation, but his mind is all about how to get to the banana tree and steal bananas before the owner of the garden comes out and chases him away. The person who sits still, controlling the organs of action, but with the mind thinking of the objects of the senses, vimudhatma, sa vimudhatma mithyachara uchyate. That person who is vimudhatma, who is a deluded soul, that deluded soul is called a mithyachara, a hypocrite, one who moves falsely, which is the meaning of a hypocrite. So that deluded soul is a hypocrite, who pretends to be seated quietly, but all the time thinking of objects of the senses. And of course, not to think of the objects of senses is difficult, of course, and so that we understand. But there are many who pretend to be yogis in order to get pranami and good food and offerings and things like that. And so they sit quietly by the roadside waiting for people to make offerings, thinking about what they're going to get when they collect enough money. So that is hypocrisy. So that's why Swamiji established work even for monks. Not selfish work, not work motivated for oneself, but work for the welfare of others as a spiritual practice. So the translation here says, one who, after withdrawing the organs of action, sits recollecting mentally the objects of the senses, that one of deluded mind is called a hypocrite. And the next verse is related. Yastvindriyani manasa niyam yarabhate arjuna karmendriyai karma yogam asakta savishishyate. So this is the other side of the equation, those who are doing the right thing. That one, indriyani manasa niyamya, who has controlled the senses with the mind, including the jnanendriyas, the eyes and the ears and the tongue, etc. One who with the mind has controlled the senses, karmendriyai arabhate karma yogam, who engages in karma yoga with the organs of action, O Arjuna. So one who has controlled the jnanendriyas, the sense organs, with the mind, and who has engaged the organs of action, the hands, the feet, the tongue, etc., the organs of action in karma yoga, asakta savishishyate, asakta, unattached, savishishyate, he excels. So such a one excels who controls the senses by the mind and engages the organs of action in karma yoga. Such a one excels. So on the one hand we have the hypocrite, and on the other hand we have the what it is that we're supposed to do. So we'll take one more verse, and then if there are any questions, we can take those. 8 says, Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayo ya karmanaha sharira yatra tijate na prasidhyera karmanaha. Niyatam karma, tvam, you, niyatam karma, necessary work, the work which is obligatory, kuru, do, perform the necessary work. You, O Arjuna, perform necessary work. Karma jyayo hi akarmanaha, because work is greater than worklessness. It's better to work than to sit idle. That's the idea. Better to work than to sit idle. Sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyera karmanaha. Akarmanaha, without work. Sharira yatra api. The very maintenance, the maintenance and the operation of your body, na prasidhyed, will not be accomplished. Without action, you can't even maintain the body. And so, Arjuna, be active, be active. So again, the idea here is that you have to work all of the time by the very force of nature. Nature forces you to be active all of the time. Even if you think you're sitting quietly, you're not sitting quietly. You're doing things with the mind and so forth. You're daydreaming or thinking or whatever. And so it's better to be engaged in action, because even the maintenance of your body is not possible without action. Holy Mother was the great proponent of karma yoga, not just Swamiji. Sri Ramakrishna also was a proponent. Though he says karma yoga is not possible in this age, what did he mean? He was talking about the karma yoga of Orthodox Hinduism, the old idea of karma yoga, where karma yoga meant doing the Vedic rituals, but without desire of going to heaven after death by doing the Vedic rituals. And so that the Vedic rituals have been greatly weakened ever since the time of Buddha. And in modern times, practically nobody does the Vedic rituals, except for a few who still do the wonderful Sandhya Vandana and repetition of the Gayatri. But the Vedic rituals, there are only a few specialists who remain who do the Vedic rituals. But the household fire and things like that have practically disappeared. And so the Ramakrishna was saying that old type of karma yoga, of doing all of the Vedic injunctions, according to the Vedic injunctions, but with non-attachment, that's not easy to do. But the karma yoga that Swami Vivekananda taught was the type of karma yoga that Sri Ramakrishna himself practiced. But Swami Vivekananda made it explicit. In Sri Ramakrishna's life, you have to search for it and interpret things that he did and said as supporting karma yoga. But in Swamiji and in Holy Mother, karma yoga is explicit. Holy Mother as much as Swamiji. Swamiji gave sort of the intellectual foundations for karma yoga and also practiced it, of course. And Holy Mother gave as her typically simple instruction the daily necessity of karma yoga. She said things like she was an illumined soul herself, the Divine Mother herself. But even if you forget her nature as the Divine Mother, if you just think of her as a great saint, she was an illumined soul. But she said, "Oh Lord, I pray that as long as I live, so long may I work, because work is a wonderful thing." And she would tell her disciples, including her sannyasi disciples, remain engaged in work, because work keeps the mind healthy. So many people at the time of retirement people come to retirement, they want to retire and then emphasize their spiritual life, and that's a good thing. That's an ancient Hindu tradition, which is still alive in India. It's not that many people do it, but many people know that that's what should be done. Many Hindus know that that's the ideal. And there are many people who want to do that also. And there are some people who do it, and that's a wonderful thing. But if you've led an active life all of your life, and then suddenly you're retired and have nothing to do, then you find it impossible just to spend all of your time doing japa. If you try, the brain, as they say in India, the brain gets overheated. So even after retirement, when you want to devote more of your time to spiritual practice, yes, that's good and that you should do. But to do it along with action. Don't try to give up acting, because then you'll find that you can't do it. You've been active your whole life. Not only you can't do it, but it's not necessary to do. So do some things, engage yourself in some useful activity, do things that will be of benefit to others. If it's just for the family, that's okay. If it's for the community, that's good. But do something which is beneficial, and begin to inject more and more spiritual practice. Begin to sit regularly for an amount that you can do, not for an amount that makes your head spin and makes you feel like you're going crazy. No, do an amount that you can do. Read spiritual books for an amount that you can do, and gradually try to increase it little by little, not by big giant steps, but little by little. And you'll surprise yourself how much you can do. Swami Chaitanananda, once many years ago, I heard him tell a beautiful story. And he had come back to India for a visit. I heard him tell this, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. He came back to India and met an older man. I think the man was in his 70s. He had retired. And he had decided that, that during my working life and family life, I was too busy. I didn't think about spiritual things. I was so caught up in so many things. But then I came to retirement and I thought, no, now I've missed my whole life, spiritual things. Now I must begin to practice spiritual things. So he tried to meditate and he found it was impossible. Just his mind he would sit, dedicate some time to sitting, and the mind would be everywhere except for on his meditation. He found it impossible. And so he thought that, I can't do it. I can't do it. So he told Swami Chaitananda, it wasn't that Swami Chaitananda gave him this advice. Swami Chaitananda told us what this man told him. That then he thought, that this man thought on his own, he came up with the idea, well, I love Swamiji. I love Swami Vivekananda. And so let me go and buy as many photographs as there are of Swamiji, and I'll just every day go and look at each of the photographs. At least that I can do, because I love Swamiji. So he went to Advaita Ashrama, and at that time there were 75 photographs available of Swamiji. Now I think there's over 90 photographs of Swamiji, the different photographs of Swamiji available. Some of them are not very clear, but there are over 90 now. So he got the 75 that were available at that time, had Advaita Ashrama make prints of all of them. And so in one room of his house, he put all of these 75 photographs all around the wall. So he said that what I do is, every morning I go into that hall and I stand in front of each picture for 1 minute and just look at Swamiji and just think about Swamiji and think of what this picture represents. Swamiji's strength and his heroism and his renunciation. Different qualities are pictured in different photographs. Playfulness, so many qualities exemplified in Swamiji. So he said, in that way, I easily spend an hour and 15 minutes every day in delightful meditation. So instead of thinking that, well, I can't meditate, I don't know how to meditate, it's too late for me to practice now, he found a way that he could engage his mind in spiritual things. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna said, when someone asked him, Sir, meditation is very difficult. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, meditation is difficult. It's enough if you just remember God. Meaning if you just think about God, that's enough. So find ways to think about God. Find ways to think about God. That's enough. Those who come to retirement and want to spend more time in spiritual practice, that's good. That's an excellent impulse. But don't think that you can just, okay, now I can give up all action and I'll sit all day in meditation and spiritual study. You won't be able to do it, not in a healthy way. So continue to be active, do things, but do things that are beneficial to others so that you become more unselfish. Do the necessary things you have to do to keep up your house and your responsibilities, etc. And then begin more and more to find ways to think about God, to inject the idea of God into your daily thoughts. And so that, in that way, you can be a real vanaprastha. So let me see if there are any questions or comments before we close. Yes, Sanchali, up in front. Just a moment, wait till the mic comes.
Whereas this is kind of deviating from today's topic. You mainly talked about Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and very briefly Bhakti Yoga. My question is what is the role of Raja Yoga in the path to the ultimate realization?
Yes, the place of Raja Yoga is extremely important. Sri Krishna devotes one chapter to Raja Yoga. That's chapter 6, so we'll come to that. That is the chapter on Raja Yoga. Swami Vivekananda gave great importance to Raja Yoga. You'll find different things in Swamiji. You'll find that Swamiji didn't like what are typically called yogi types. That is, people who like to gaze at their navel and not do anything and avoid responsibility and everything. But he gave great importance to Raja Yoga. If you look at the classes he gave when he was in America, he gave a large number of classes on Raja Yoga. He taught breathing exercises. He taught people how to do jala neti, taking water through the nostril to clean out the nostrils, and so forth. And lessons on concentration, lessons on meditation, etc. And in the symbol of the order, you have the sun representing jnana, you have the lotus representing bhakti, you have the waves representing karma, and in the center the swan, which represents the vision of the Supreme Self. But around the whole thing is the serpent, which represents yoga. So Swamiji in the Swamiji Shishya Sambad, the conversations with the disciple Sharachandra Chakravarti. In the Bengali, which is the original, it says something different than the English translation. In my translation, which they may or may not use in the New Complete Works, I don't know whether it is accepted or not, but I changed it to what it says in the Bengali. And that is, in the Bengali it says, when he's explaining the symbol of the order, Swamiji, he says that when the karma, bhakti, and jnana are combined together with the power empowered by yoga, then the vision of the Supreme Self is attained. So Raja Yoga is the path which brings power to all of the other yogas. It doesn't have to be practiced as a separate yoga, but Swamiji gave great importance to it being practiced along with whatever yoga you do. If you practice Bhakti Yoga, then learn to include some meditation, some japa, focusing the mind through prayer, whatever you do. Or like this man, just standing in front of Swamiji's pictures, just thinking about Swamiji. That is Raja Yoga. That's bringing the mind into a focus. So Raja Yoga is that which brings power to the mind so that our spiritual power of practice has power. So that's what yoga does. So I'll stop here because time is up. So let me give the closing chant and then I'll give announcements. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. That is full. This universe is full. From out of that fullness has come this fullness. When to fullness, the fullness returns. Only fullness remains. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all the beings of the universe.